Thank you. Thanks to Sarah's 1, 2, and 3. I think I get their numbers a little mixed up, but and thanks especially to Darla Deerdorf. We work within an hour of each other and live in the same distance, and we have to come to South Africa to actually engage in this kind of conversation, so I'm so delighted to be here. And so I direct the Center for Research on Global Engagement, which I will talk about in a moment. Elon University is, if you're familiar with North Carolina, towards the middle of the state, about 6,000 undergraduates, primarily an undergraduate teaching institution. We do believe that we are teacher-scholar mentors, so I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm bringing my family with me here by photo, if not elsewise. The man in the middle is my father, Jos Vandermaas. You said that, Sarah, so beautifully. And where I live, people cannot really say my name very well. In fact, my students call me MVP because they don't want to say Maureen Vandermaas Peeler is too much. So this is my dad, Jos. He came over to the United States when he was in his 20s. No kidding, was Christmas caroling, met my mother, and stayed. I know, so cute. He left 11 siblings behind, and so I have a very large family in the Netherlands, and I'm beginning to know them better through WhatsApp and other ways. It's my family up on the left, my children, and of course you have to show a picture of your beautiful dog, Thor. My work as a teacher, scholar, mentor, for those of you who were in my story circle yesterday, the top left picture is the Hawaiian activist I was speaking about, Jamaica Osorio and her father John, famous activists and musicians in the Hawaiian Islands, and my heart is with the people in Maui and the community of Kanaka Maoli in particular. I teach in Hawaii regularly in our winter term in January. And it's where I started my academic career. In the bottom left, I highlight I am a developmental psychologist. I actually study early childhood, and so the comments earlier about literacy and building blocks, I also have studied emergent numeracy and thinking about inquiry and how we really want to build future scholars, and early childhood is the place to start. So this is a class I was teaching, but the children are outdoors. I love to think about how children engage in the natural world as well. I show this picture because this is my work as a mentor. These are two students who worked with me for 3 years. I usually have 4 to 6 students that I take on for multiple years, joyfully. This is the joy in my work for sure. On the left, that's Juliet, and she studied at the University of Cape Town for a semester. To get back into why I'm here, the Center for Research on Global Engagement, I think the missions of the center, and the center was started about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm the founding director. And the mission and aims of the center really align well with the objectives for the UNESCO chair. So fostering collaboration, building partnerships, not only on our campus, obviously, but nationally and internationally, and then establishing best practices or evidence-based practices to share what we know and what we're learning. Elon is sometimes known in the world of student mobility. We send a lot of our students. Before the pandemic, upwards of 85% of our students had some sort of experience off campus, and that number is probably going to grow back. That's one of our main facets of our reputation. We also are known for engaged learning, so we think a lot about how, what does high quality engaged learning look like. So one of the initiatives I've been involved in, I've led on my campus an American Council for Education initiative around mentoring, but it has also been part of the work I do, and I'll call my center SURGE awkwardly. That's the acronym. So SURGE is the Center for Research on Global Engagement. Mentoring matters. It's a very important way that we highlight, I guess, high quality undergraduate education. There's been a lot of research over the past couple of decades showing that mentoring matters, and students who report having a mentor, someone they had a meaningful relationship with, who helped them meet their goals, are much more likely later in life to be thriving and succeeding in their job. So it's important during the educational process in higher ed, but also later, and of course throughout a child's education. Mentors matter. So I've been thinking a lot about this in the context of mentoring undergraduate research, and also in connection with diversity and global learning. Those are two of George Ku's high-impact educational practices. We think a lot about how they might matter for meaningful learning. I've been partnered through my center with the Association of American Colleges and Universities, AAC&U, and the Forum on Education Abroad. Some of you may know, have heard of the Forum in particular. And so these organizations, with my center, we've partnered to think about mentoring, and you can see here some of the ways that mentoring matters when students are engaged in globally focused complex problems, working with ethical community partnerships. They can build cultural humility. Of course, this is all part of intercultural competence. And so we've been publishing and thinking about this work together. We, early on, convened 2 different think tanks. One was in person, and then during the pandemic, we did a virtual version. If you look in that first column, you'll see a familiar name. So Darla joined us for one of our think tanks, I think. Darla, is that right? And these think tanks were very useful in terms of trying to understand the layering of educational practices together. And what we learned, these 3 themes, emerged as key to the participants, and also these became our 3 working groups. So increased access to mentored, globally focused undergraduate research. This is being led by Don Whitehead, who is one of the vice presidents at AAC&U. In particular, thinking about our underrepresented students, and that can look different, obviously, depending on your context, but in our world, we're talking about students of color, women in STEM, which came up this morning, international, first-gen, students from lower resource backgrounds. These are the ones who are not showing up as doing undergraduate research as often as other students, and so we're really thinking about how to improve access and inclusion. And then to augment intercultural learning, what a great opportunity if you're doing undergraduate research in a global context, which, by the way, includes local and international. And then to address the knowledge gaps, that's a group I've been leading to try to do some research. So we've done interviews and surveys. This work is coming out in the next month or 2. This is one possible cover for the work, and it will be a virtual publication, open access, so I'd be happy to share this work with you. I think it's going to hopefully be a driver for future research. How am I doing? When I think about mentoring, I think about 3 kinds of approaches. This is based on some of the citations you see there. Kathy Cram did this work in the workplace. So without going into much more detail, it can be skill-focused, mentoring can be emotionally, personally focused, and then we think a lot about relational mentoring, so that reciprocity, how mentoring relationships are dynamic. And so thinking about one of our survey respondents has a quote here I'll let you read quickly and then move forward. So a community-based approach to mentoring. We talk a lot at my institution now about mentoring constellations. We know that students can build multiple networks of mentoring, and they need to do that, actually. One mentor can really not fulfill all of the needs and all the types of support. So I'll just briefly say I'm also partnered in my center with another group that is known now as the Collaborative. They used to be the Global Service Learning, I can't remember, but Eric Hartman has been leading this work. I mention it here because community engaged global learning is very aligned with the work that we're all talking about here today. These are folks who've been thinking about what they're calling fair trade learning, global citizenship, constant attention to the power and privilege and positionalities that we have throughout our work. As a spin-off of that collaborative, I'm on the steering committee of that group, we've formed a community of practice, and this includes Richard Kiley at Cornell, Janice McMillan at the University of Cape Town, and me, and then Danielle is another woman at Cape Town who's joined us lately. And we've been thinking about a concept that's called relational engagement. And I bring it up here because, first of all, I'm very excited to meet Janice for the first time in person on Friday. We've only communicated online, and so thank you again for bringing me here, and I can now meet Janice and hopefully drive this work forward a little bit more. This is Janice's work, really. She's she's a visual artist of sorts, I think, and created these maps that I know you can't see, but I highlight them just to show you that this is our work in progress. When we think about the mapping of something like relational engagement, which could be an umbrella term, including, of course, intercultural learning and competencies. But thinking about, Janice was working in the area of radical empathy, and Richard has been doing a lot of work in cultural humility, and I've been thinking about relational mentoring, and we were reading different streams of literature, but bringing them together sort of, again, hopefully and joyfully seeing this as a possible fruitful collaboration, and it's really just in its beginning stages. So I just highlight those as 2 initiatives. I'm going to stop here. We're not going to do questions now. I'll pass now to my new friend, Milton.